Welcome back to Objective 5 of Chapter 13 in our 3A1 series. Another quick objective this one. In Objective 5 we'll define alloy steels and explain the benefits of alloying elements including nickel, chromium, molybdenum, vanadium, copper, lead, manganese as well as tungsten. So first of all, what exactly is an alloy steel, and secondly, why should we alloy a steel? Well, first of all, we've defined what iron and steel is in a previous objective. That is, cast iron, or iron, is an iron that contains more than 2% carbon. Steel is iron that contains less than 2% carbon. Well, an alloy steel is an iron that contains less than 2% carbon, which also has one or more elements added in to the mix. That's what an alloy is. Now, secondly, why should we bother alloying a steel? Well, adding alloys or elements into our metal can give us an improvement over any of these 6 areas. That is, first, a reduction in overall mass. 2, improved corrosion resistance. 3, improved performance regarding temperature. 4, increased strength and toughness. 5, alter the melting point. Or 6, improved electrical as well as thermal conductivity. Now, with regarding the reduction in mass, think about an example, airframe construction for aircraft. They often use a material called duralumin, where we have aluminum and magnesium alloyed within our steel. The aluminum now makes it a lot lighter, which means the aircraft would have a higher power to weight ratio, and it's going to be more efficient. So there's a classic example of making the steel lighter for an application that requires less mass. Second, improve corrosion resistance. Well, that's going to be an important one for us because a lot of our steels are in contact with hot gases and also oxidation. So if we can improve our corrosion resistance, we'll improve the lifespan of our boiler as well as limit the maintenance required for it. Third, improved temperature performance. Same idea. Think about the steel that surrounds our furnaces inside of our boilers. Well, that has to be able to withstand high temperatures as well as the flame in contact with the steel in many of our applications. 4, increased strength and toughness. Well, the toughness is going to be for things like thermal loading. If we have a thermal shock, which is going to increase and then decrease the temperature rapidly, it must be able to withstand that. And also physical toughness from the metal being wanting to expanding and contracting with increasing and decreased temperatures. The strength, of course, will be for things like the ultimate tensile strength. Factors like this that are very important when picking a material to withstand a certain pressure at a certain temperature. Number 5, altering the melting point. This is a classic example for things like solder. Solder has to melt at a certain point so we can make the connection if we're soldering wires together, for example. So we need to be able to manipulate the melting point, and we can do this by bringing in alloys. Things like lead, tin, things of this nature. And then finally, number 6, improved electrical conductivity, massively important for electrical cores of equipment like motors, transformers, generators, solenoids, things like that, and as well as improving thermal conductivity for the transfer of heat to make our heat transfers that much more efficient. Classic examples that would cover both of those are things like copper. Copper is a wonderful electrical conductor, but it's also very good at being thermally conductive also. And it's why we see copper used a lot in low pressure applications and for things like heat exchangers and things of that nature. So let's talk about a bunch of different elements here and see why we'd bother to use these in our alloys. Now, of course, some alloys are going to use more than just one of these. It will depend upon what application it's being constructed for. So first one on our list here is nickel. Nickel is a great one that's often found in the electrical industry as it's used for things like switch contacts, cable terminations, things like that, as nickel plated or nickel alloyed steels are very good at resisting corrosion as well as oxidation resistance. Oxidation can simply be thought of as contact with air and in the contact with the oxygen. Now, nickel will also improve the toughness of our material and also prevent brittleness at low temperatures. There's only one metal that we know of that when the temperature decreases, the toughness increases, and that's aluminum. Any other metal, when the temperature drops, is going to become more brittle. Now, in terms of the quantity of nickel, we're talking anywhere from 1 to 36%, depending upon the desired application. We can also see nickel being used for case hardening applications, where the outermost layer of our steel is case hardened. And we see that for use in things like drive shafts, crankshafts, or even things such as bearings, gears, wheels, things of that nature. And whenever you find nickel, it's also very common to see it being used with chromium. And then you get these alloys called nichrome, which is nickel and chromium. So talking about our chromium one then, chromium is the one that generally lends itself to the discussion of stainless steel. When we add more than 12% chromium to a steel, it becomes stainless steel. Now, there are different grades of stainless steel, but the magic number for us to remember is 12%. If, however, we add more than 4% chromium, well, then we just achieve corrosion resistance. So it depends. Stainless steel is a bit of a funny material for us because we are allowed to use it, but only in certain applications. We're not allowed to use stainless steel anywhere it's in normal wetted contact with water. So we can use stainless steels for things like superheaters and reheaters, but you couldn't use them, for example, for water tubes. We'll get into the reasons why, talking about stress corrosion cracking, in the next chapter. Now, stainless steels, and with the addition of chromium, it's best at resisting oxidation and hot gases. Well, again, this is a great example for use in furnace areas, for example. And it's also very strong at high temperatures, containing an increased hardness, as well as resistance to abrasion. So very useful. And we often hear the term go hand in hand with this in our industry called austenitic steels. And you'll talk about those when you do your 3A2 and we do boiler calculations regarding construction thicknesses for pipe wall, tubes, shells, things like that. Okay, the next one is molybdenum. Molybdenum increases hardness as well as endurance and reduces something called creep. And we need to have a little quick chat about creep on the next slide. Now, the main application for molybdenum is to reduce this creep. And we only add small amounts of this, anywhere from 0.1 to 0.4%. And we also get an increase in toughness so it can withstand impact. Now, creep is something that should have been mentioned last year in 4th class. Creep, or cold flow as it's often known, is basically the ability of material to fail even if though it is below the elastic limit and below the ultimate strength, of course. Now, this happens over a long time, and laboratory tests are done over so many thousands of hours to find out what the creep failure point's going to be of a metal. Now, there's nothing really that we can do about creep. It's going to happen. However, creep is made worse with the increase in temperature. So if you think about our applications for boiler tubes and fire tubes, for example, these are steels that are going to be placed under a great deal of stress, pressure and temperature. So with the addition of molybdenum, we can reduce the overall effects of creep. Can't stop it, but we can restrict it. Now, we need to be clear on what the difference is between creep and metal fatigue. Now, in the general world of engineering, metal fatigue is the #1 cause of metal failure. However, in power engineering, it isn't the #1 cause of metal failure. And the reason why is that fatigue is the easiest to think of is if you take something like a paper clip and you bend it one way, then bend it the other. Bend it one way, then the other, and keep cycling it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You'll eventually find it's going to snap. And I'm sure most of you have done that with some point, like a staple, a paper clip, something like that, or even a bit of wire. Well, that's a constant loading, then unloading. Loading, then unloading. We don't see that so much in power engineering because if you think about it, we start up our boilers and ideally the boiler will then run for the entire year without being shut down. So because our equipment is designed to run and run for extremely long periods of time, Metal fatigue isn't really a problem and it can be designed out. Creep, however, is a problem, and this is where our alloys of things like molybdenum as well as normalized steels come in to try and reduce this issue at our operating temperatures, as they're quite high. Now, the next steel to mention is that of vanadium. Vanadium increases hardness as well as ductility. It increases toughness as well as strength. And it's also good for being used at high temperatures as well as improving impact resistance. So vanadium is another good choice for an alloy for operating at high temperatures and pressures, for example. The next one is copper. Copper alloys are generally thought of as bronze and brass, and please be aware of which way around this is. Bronze is copper and tin, brass is copper and zinc. The way I remember this, because I used to mix these up all the time, is that the one without the Z in it has the Z in it. So what do I mean by that? I mean brass doesn't have a Z in it, so brass contains zinc. Bronze does have a Z in it, so it doesn't contain zinc. That's the one that I used to mix up all the time. So bronze is copper and tin, brass is copper and zinc. The best thing about copper alloys, of course, is that they are corrosion resistant. And we see copper alloys for brass and bronze, as well as copper itself, being used a lot in low pressure fittings. Pipe fittings, valves, piping, etc. Very, very common. We also see bronze and brass being used for valve trim, which are the internals of a valve, such as the disc, the seat, the stem, the guide bushings, as well as the piston, if you like, itself, or the valve stem. Okay, our next one is lead. Lead is a very soft material, so lead improves machinability or workability. It also has a low melting point, so is ideal when we're making castings, where something will be poured in a molten state and then allowed to set, and that's then going to be the shape that it's used. It's also corrosion resistant as well as very ductile, and a classic example of lead is being used in things like batteries and battery terminals. The amount of lead that we add in is not very much, anywhere from 0.15 to 0.35%. And of course, as I'm sure you're aware, lead is a heavy metal, so you need to take care with it, as lead is very toxic. The next one is manganese. Manganese improves strength and hardness as well as having high impact strength, and it's commonly used in things like pop cans or soda cans. We also have good resistance to wear and abrasion. We don't add much of it, typically between 0.5 to 2, but in special applications it can be as high as 20. But again, not so much, it depends upon the application. Manganese will also improve malleability, which is basically workability, and will also decrease in ductility as well as toughness. The next one here is tungsten. Tungsten is a very hard material, and it also has a very high melting point. So it's ideal for using things like tool steel or cutting steel. Things like drill bits, lathe cutting tools, elements in light bulbs, for example. These are made of tungsten due to their high melting point. Or even things like drill bits on the end of a drilling rig or the drilling tool that's going to be used. So tungsten, very good idea as for any application that requires a lot of strength and hardness. An application we've talked about previously is the tungsten carbide ball used for the hardness test in the Brunel test. That was an example of tungsten. The next one here is silicon. Silicon is classically used in electrical industry to improve electrical conductivity. So we get silicon alloys being used for things like transformer cores, motor cores, generator cores, solenoids, things like that. If we add too much of it, however, more than 2.5%, it can cause brittleness as well as reducing the malleability or the workability. So we have to be careful with silicon and only use it where required. So that really is it for Objective 5. A pretty quick one. So take a look at the examples, pick out the bits in the textbook that I've highlighted in red there, because that generally tends to be what gets asked for this objective. And the good news again is that all of these alloys were spoken about back at 4th class. So this is very much a revisionary objective. So give it a good read, highlight what you need to highlight, and then when you're ready, let's move on and check out another fairly quick objective and look at Objective 6. So, see you back soon.